Hey, welcome back to Doodling with Purpose, the internet's only week-by-week free lessons in learning ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. And very little Martian. We are not covering the Martian language. Okay, let's jump in. So the first thing we're going to do is review last week's homework, which tried to incorporate some of the vocabulary from last week, because, that's how classes work. And the first thing you're going to want to do is transliterate it, meaning write down all of the sounds that all of these glyphs make, including noting where the determinatives are. And you'll remember that ND, the staff, followed by the basket, the NW, it's a complement sound. So it gets crossed off right away, kind of like a Q and a U. You can also cross off all of those echo sounds where you have a bilateral sound surrounded by single sounds. And that brings us down to this. And our first sign is that IW, which is the stop sign. It's meaning someone in the past did something. So we're in the past tense. And what did we do in the past tense? Well, the first word we have is the verb to ask. So asking happened. And because we're in the past tense, it's followed by the water sign, which is the equivalent of in hieroglyphics adding an ED to the end of a verb. So ask becomes asked. And who did the asked thing? Well, now we have the pronoun we, which is the water sign with 3 strokes under it. So now we have we asked. And again, you don't say someone in the past did something. All right, we asked what? Well, with that water sign, the first of the second line there, that N can be towards or for. Now we have a word from last week's vocabulary, the noun dwarf. So, maybe you're looking for Tyrion Lannister there or something like that. All right, don't want to get too Games of Thrones on you. Following this, we have the word that, which is PN, pun, that. So it becomes that dwarf. The next word, the first one on the third line, is Hana, the H with the dot under it, so it's hiss, that's with. Then we have the word for skin. We learned that a few weeks ago with the I, the fish, the N, the butcher's block, the owl, and then the skin determinative. Finally, the word black. So, altogether, we asked for that dwarf with the black skin, or in Egyptian order, ask we towards dwarf that with skin black. So, yeah, you have to turn it into English word order if you actually want to, try to understand what it says. And there you go. All right. So let's jump into the bilateral sounds that we're doing this week. And the first one are the 2 rush shoots, which are 2 of the same sign drawn next to each other. And this is NN, or NN. This is easy to draw as long as you know where to start. And you'll start at the top with that curve down. And then the added detail is done with sort of a V that goes down and then quickly back up again on both of those shoots. So you just repeat it twice. All right, so let's look at some words that use this bilateral sound. So here we have the double N, followed by the water sign N, and then 2 of the papyrus leaf for Y. Now that determinative at the end is a person. You'll notice it's a little different than the person in the sitting position. They're more of a kneeling position with their leg down and both of their hands pointing down. So here we have the word nini, or nani, depending on how you want to add in your vowels. N and Y, noting that one of the N's gets crossed off because of the echo effect. You have 2 plus you have 1, then minus 1 equals 2. It's like the end of that Clue movie, 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 equals echo effect. Okay, maybe not. The point is, this word, nini, means to be weary, or tired, or slightly afraid. To be weary. And you'll notice here that the verb ends in a double Y. That's a double weak consonant. Double weak consonants at the end of a verb mean that this verb falls into the extra weak verb category. So we'll get back into verbs once we're done with the bilateral and trilateral sounds. We're going to review those again, but just to refresh. All right, quick other refresh. I want to go over the word that. We talked about this in the homework where we had that dwarf. So that for a male is PN. For a female, it would be P followed by T. And this doesn't mean it's a male or a female that you're indicating. It's just whether or not the word is a male or a female. Word kind of like in French and Spanish. So here, for example, we have the word for son, and meaning like, your son, your child, with PN at the end, so it becomes that son, as opposed to my son or this son or my 3 sons. Likewise, if we had the word for daughter, which is very similar, it's the PA with a T added to it, and then the determinative of a woman instead of the determinative of a man. So here we have pot, followed by the female version of that, which is PT. So again, here we have that daughter, but you can see that the T in daughter and the T in that, the feminine form of T, have to relate. So that's how you know you're dealing with a feminine word. All right, the reason we were reviewing that is because the two reed shoots side by side without any other letters or any other determinatives is the word this or these. So now you know that, male and female, these, and that. So as an example, hopefully you remember this word, opid, which is the word for bird. Now you'll notice I put at the end the determinative, the W, which is the plural, as well as the three strokes under it. You don't have to do both. They both mean a plural. So just having the W would be fine, or having three stroke lines would be fine, and you could even throw a determinative of a bird on there. All right, so adding the double N reed shoots to that, we now know what type of bird this is, and that is these birds, because we're in plural, so it's not this, it's these. It's, again, how you can use context clues to figure out which version of a word to use. So again, the word these appearing after the noun. Next up in our bilateral is kind of a fun one to draw. This is the ox tongue. It's a little tricky to draw if you don't start it correctly. And the sound it makes is N-sh, nush, nush. The S with the dash is an SH. So the trick in drawing it is to draw that long part first that winds up being pointed down, and then add the curved part up as your second line. A lot of people think that that curve up is part of the first line, but if you try to do that, then it winds up throwing off the glyph. All right, let's look at a word that uses this glyph. And this is an interesting one because it looks like you should just be reading this, right? N, NS, T, and then we know that the water jar holder stand, if you will, the water stand, is a G. But in this case, it's a determinative. And how do you know it's a determinative and not a G? Well, it is the last letter, and a lot of times the last letter tends to be a determinative. But why would there be a determinative with the letter G? Well, as I noted, this is a jar stand. And once we've gotten rid of that double extra N due to the echo effect, well, this is the word for seat or throne. So they have a jar seat or jar holder because it represents a throne, something you sit on. All right, another word using the NS is the actual word tongue. And you know this is the actual word tongue because we have a stroke line indicating that this glyph is an ideogram, as well as the determinative. It looks kind of like a teardrop. This is a piece of flesh. So you'll see this for random bits and pieces of the human body that don't have an otherwise clear determinative. All right, here's another fun one. So here we have N followed by NS, that's S with the dash, so it's sh, followed by S, the bolt of cloth, R, and then this determinative here. Now, again, one of the things I love about hieroglyphics is all of the hints and clues that you're given. Now, hopefully you remember this determinative. We've covered it before. This is the determinant for hot or fire things. So if you remember this word, ma'ak or ma'ku, M-A-K, and the Q, the K with the da is like a Q, like queen, Queen's Hill. So this is the word to roast, the verb. And again, you have the determinative for hot and fire things. So with the same determinative at the end of this word, you can probably guess what it has to do with. So you will notice we do have an SH next to an S. Normally these wouldn't cancel each other out, but this is one of those weird cases where the bolt of cloth thinks it's the pool, which is the SH, not the bolt of cloth, which is S. This is probably just because it's hard to pronounce, N-N-S-H-S-R. That would be like nisher. It's just easier to say nisher. What can I say? It just got shortened. It's one of those weird exceptions that you're going to cancel out the extra S even though it doesn't match the SH. So, again, knowing that the determinative at the end is the fire determinative, well, this is the word to burn, the verb to burn. And again, the determinative being the same as you had on to roast, both things that have to do with fire, heat, hot, etc., etc. And it's one of those fun, cool clues that lives in hieroglyphs that makes it a lot easier to read this than you think. All right, here is our homework for this coming week. Now, note that the verb in the second line is in the participle form, meaning it's a person who does something. But we're in the past tense there because you notice the first sign is our stop sign telling us we're in the past tense. All right, we'll come back next week and we'll transliterate and translate that and keep going on as we doodle with purpose, learn hieroglyphics, and have some fun along the way. Thanks for watching, thanks for sharing, and I'll see you next week.